Hi, and welcome to Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. And I'm annoyed, I'm angry, and I'm disgusted because the very basic principles of the Constitution are being violated. If you remember, I had talked earlier that this coronavirus is being taken for a ride by the politicians to extend their power. And now, even the judiciary is trying to encroach on the powers of the executive. Before I come to the second part, let me tell you, in the third century, a plague took place when the population of the world was 475 million. In that plague, 10 million people died. And we have not reached that stage till today, we have not even 1 million dead. We are just 1,700,000 people dead. Then, every year, 200,000 people die because of the tuberculosis. And we are not worried. 300,000 people die because of the AIDS, and we do not cry. And here we are crying unnecessarily. And if you remember, in 1921, a plague took place. We started from Yuan, the present place, and extended all over Asia, including India. And 12 million people died. There was no human cry. So why are we worried now? That we'll discuss some other time as well. But today, I want to talk about the shocking decision and the most injudicious order by the Supreme Court of India. On Wednesday, in response to a petition, the Supreme Court directed that the COVID-19 tests be conducted in the private labs free of cost. I fail to understand why. It is the right of the judiciary to see that the laws are implemented. It is the right of the judiciary to see that the laws are not violated. It is the right of the judiciary to ensure that no law is made by the parliament which is against the constitution. But it is not the right of the judiciary to take over the executive powers. The executive powers rest with the executive headed by the prime minister, not the president. President is the head of the judiciary as well as of the executive, and he is a figurehead. He can do no wrong. But when the executive is taking a power and the judiciary interferes in that, it is a gross violation of the constitution, and the very basics of the democracy are spoiled. Now, forcing private labs to conduct tests gratis is bad in law. No private party can be authorized to render a service without charge. Well, for the sake of argument, the Supreme Court might come up with a stupid plea that the government should pay for it. Well, if the government is to pay for it, then it's an executive decision, and the Supreme Court order of Wednesday has no loci standi. It is a contradiction in terms. For a court of justice to jump into the process and order a specific course of action spoils the process, disrupts the process, and it is not acceptable. And this order is without any clarity. They have directed that the private labs shall render this service free of cost. Who shall pay the cost to the private sector? If they had ordered the government hospitals, government labs to do it free of cost, that already is being done. But to ask the private sector to undertake a job without getting the payment is exploitation, and that's not done. It is spoiling the financial health of the labs. Earlier, Delhi High Court on Monday, just 2 days before this injudicious judgment of the Supreme Court, Delhi High Court had refused, yes, right, to declare a private company that failed to pay its loan installment due in January as a non-performing asset and force the bank not to take action. Now imagine the plea taken was that the Reserve Bank had ordered on March 27 that there be a moratorium on loans, not in January of 2020. How can a court take retrospective action on a judgment or an order of the RBI is beyond understanding and beyond comprehension. That means that both the banks and the industry would need firefighting money as they can get the court's concern toward the private enterprise may lead to the deeper concern. These two judgments strike at the very root of judicious independence and the judicious judgment of the court. And then they pave the way for the executive to assert itself and tell, okay, mind your business. You are bypassing the Lakshman Rekha. You are undertaking those steps which are not in your domain, and we are compelled to restrict your actions. Result authoritarianism, dictatorship. Fundamental are being violated. Imagine COVID-19 tests in the private lab should be free for everybody. People say, why? That one has failed to understand. One thing court could have done was that is the right of the citizen to get the right test. But then ICMR has laid down 6 conditions for the test to be conducted. And test for COVID-19 is not a fundamental right. The right and the responsibility of the Supreme Court is to ensure that the fundamental rights are respected, not the directive principles. And this right for the test is not a fundamental right. If you fulfill the 6 conditions laid down by ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, then you are entitled to a test. So, this test is not applicable to every citizen. And as such, this is discriminatory in nature and unconstitutional order that is being perpetuated by the Supreme Court. The petitioner also argued that the price cap of rupees 4,500 the cost of test is unreasonable and discriminatory as poor people could not afford it. There are cars which are being sold at ₹1 million, at $1 million, at a few hundred crores. They are beyond the approach of the poor and beyond the approach of the middle class and beyond the approach of people accepting 2% top bracket. Would the Supreme Court order that everybody should be entitled to a free laboratory, free Austin Martin? They can't do it. So if the test is expensive, there are two costs involved. One is the real cost of the chemicals, the manpower, salary, and then the profit added to that. And there are no limits to the profit that can be added to that. So how can Supreme Court issue a directive saying that this cost is prohibitive and because the poor can't afford it? That is absolutely illogical, unreasonable, and shows that our judiciary is suffering from paranoia. The paranoia that is suffering and is making the judiciary deliver such judgments is shocking. Then what follows the price cap for the private lab does not violate again any right of any individual. Then compared to the global numbers, India has conducted far low number of tests. On an average, in the whole of India, not more than 10,000 tests are conducted in a whole day. While in Germany, on an average, 60,000 tests are conducted every day. So, which shows that the private labs, even if they start giving free service, would not only be going bankrupt, but would also be instrumental in not providing proper service. They will do a shoddy job if they are forced to do it. Is that what we want? Do we want coronavirus cases to be declared negative when they're really positive? This is clear from ICMR notice, which I've alluded to earlier. Now, with an increasing number, it's not feasible, neither possible nor probable for the private sector to do it. So, what's to be the solution? First, it has already been announced by the government that any person enrolled under the Ayushman Bharat scheme can avail of the test in the government hospitals or in the private facility. And if he goes to the private facility, it will be paid by the government. So what Supreme Court is ordering is absolutely superfluous for those people who are enrolled under Bharat Ayushman scheme. And for the people who are not enrolled in the scheme, let them pay. They miss the bus when they refuse to join the scheme. And if you refuse to ride the train, why should the train wait for you? Can the honorable judges of the Supreme Court explain this enigma that faces the nation today? That for some stupid people who fail to take advantage of the government offer and then they cry hoarse, stating that their rights are being violated. Automatically, under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, the poorest of the poor would take advantage of. Now, India's defense budget, if broken down month-wise, is 40,000 crores, and in the wartime period, government has no difficulty walking the talk. This is a war the government says, and it's an undeclared war, and it's an unnecessary war, as we have discussed many times. The whole paranoia that's being created by the media and by the politicians is aimed at only one thing: to scare the people, to make them feel afraid, so that they opt for the strong man, so that 1984 can come in, so that what happened yesterday in Hungary can be repeated in all the countries. Imagine in a democratically elected parliament, the parliament passes a law that the prime minister shall continue to be the prime minister and there shall be no limit on his rights. And today, parliament in Canada is meeting to decide whether the prime minister should be given the wartime powers or not. 10 premiers have opposed it, but the parliament will meet today and only 30 MPs will be attending that parliament. 30 MPs out of 200 odd MPs. That's it. And they'll take a decision. And the decision would most probably be, well, Trudeau can be interested to have the wartime powers. Now, all this is ganging up of the dirty politicians to become dictators, to murder democracy. And the courts are unfortunately playing a second fiddle to that. Would you tolerate that? Would you like that? I would not. But the people who sleep, people who do not wake up, do not deserve to be Democrats. They lose all their rights as human beings, as you are going to lose them because you are going to permit dirty politicians to have power at your cost. Wake up before it's too late. Think about it. Thank you.